really impressed with the amount of Facebook views we've had. It's awesome.
All right. Let's go ahead and call this meeting of the Isanti City Council to order. If we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Doing roll call, we have everyone present except for Councilman Lundin, and I think he's working. I know he was trying to get here as soon as he could, but he's not made it yet. So, do we have any public comment? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Are there any changes or amendments? Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the agenda from Councilman what is wrong with that? Councilman Merrill. That's the second time I've done that tonight.
I think you're missing them.
I guess so, yeah. I have a motion to adopt the agenda from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Holmgren. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Do I have a motion to approve the city council meeting minutes from December 5th, 2023?
I have a question on those. So if you look at under G3, it says motion by Councilmember Steve Lundin, and then it says at the bottom sentence, discussion will be held at the December 5th, 2023 council meeting. So that shouldn't that be the December 19th meeting? Yeah, G3, yep, the bottom sentence on that little,
Oh, that was, I had changed that, so on G3, so we're referencing the November 21st council meeting minutes so at that meeting, I said that we needed to change those minutes
okay.
to that date.
Got it.
Yeah,
The page break there is what, okay, sounds good. I'll motion to approve with that clarification.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from December 5th from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Holmgren. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. For announcements, we've got city offices are closed on the 25th and 26th of December in observance of Christmas. The city offices will be closed on Monday, January 1st for New Year's. The city council goal session meeting will be Tuesday, January 2nd at 6 p.m. The city council meeting, the regular meeting, will be Tuesday, the 22nd at 7 p.m., and the EDA will meet on the 2nd immediately following the council meeting. Do we have any council committee reports?
I do have one. So the school board had their annual truth and taxation meeting. As relatively unattended, which I think is a good sign. I think the community has a little bit more faith in the local leadership than maybe years prior, and I think that's good. So I think they're doing a good job. If there wasn't a lot of public comment, that's a good sign. And then I think the little attendance can also be partly attributed to city and county, both working hard to lower the taxes so people's statements aren't glaringly like, whoa, we're paying so much more money. And I think it's a group effort for everybody to lower taxes. I would, of course, like to see the school board spending a little less money, but it is what it is. So, but the meeting went well. So that was the school board committee report.
All right, any other council committee reports?
I had one. I went to the BMX Association meeting, and they said it's been a while since the city officials, been there. So they were kind of quite surprised. But they do have some more changes that are going to be coming that they were mentioning with their agreement and kind of city's portion of voting. So I told them to bring it to council. And then they were in the middle of planning a track, replacing the dirt on the track. So that's all I got so far.
Did they say how long it's been since they've seen attendance?
Well, one of them said, and I'm pretty sure she was joking, but she was like a couple of months after they built the building. So I know that Josie said it's been a while.
And Dan was on that,
Yes.
so I don't know.
Was he
if
getting paid for that?
Was he not attending that, or, I don't know if that's anything we really need to
I'd
get
have to go
into, I
back
guess,
and
but,
look.
but it doesn't sound like it was being attended, huh?
Well, thanks for going. I'm kind of
Well,
surprised.
they
I
were a
did
little
go back and
surprised.
look, and there was quite a few that he did not.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any other committee reports? All right, we don't have any public hearings today, so we'll move on to business item K1, the splash pad discussion. And I know, Mike, I think you were gonna kind of take the lead on this topic, but I asked to bring it up again on the meeting after talking with Stephanie, and her and Jason had done a lot of digging again on, you know, basically what these costs are. I mean, this project was started in like 2020 when it was originally kind of dreamed up and the grant was gone for and all that kind of stuff. And sounds like, you know, we dealt with the bathroom issue, you know, last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess it was now. And that's not the only thing that is going up in price. And so I think I'll just let you guys kind of take it from there, but it's just it's something I think we need to take another look at, so.
Yeah, we hadn't been planning on this being on the agenda, but in talking with Stephanie and Jason, going over the numbers, we're getting to a point where, you know, we are not to 50% over budget, but we're moving toward that. And unfortunately, I have absolutely no faith that by the time we get back around the calendar to construction time, that vendors are going to continue to honor their pricing, like especially for like the fixtures. That kind of stuff. And so, I mean, I had contacted each of you individually, and I can't in good conscience recommend that we continue to go forward with the project. This has come up before. We did basically the exact same thing in 2017 with a stormwater project. Bids were way higher than budgeted. We didn't do it. 2018, same deal with stormwater. Bids were way higher. Didn't do it. Rolled all three projects in 2019. Finally got bids that were acceptable and reasonable, then we move forward with it. But to just say, in my opinion, to say we're doing it and we're just, you know, budget be damned, I can't say that we should continue forward. Now, that said, I'm staff, I'm finance director. If council says we're doing this thing, yes, I will make it happen, but it's not my recommendation.
Well, and I think even the way that we had talked about funding it, where, you know, I mean, like I said, I mean, I from the very beginning, I was not a fan of the way that it was originally planned, that was, you know, calling for actual, you know, money from the general fund, and it was calling for the part dedication funds and then the grant, and we ended up being able to change that to where we could just use part dedication funds and the grant. Well, that I was okay with, but, you know, could we use every single penny of part dedication funds we have and probably do this? Well, probably could, but do we really want to use everything we have towards this one project? I mean, with the costs the way they are, keep going up, and, you know, I mean, and you throw on top of it too, I mean, there was concern that we might not be able to get parts for quite a while, right? I mean, it was gonna be, you know, I mean, that's the reason we had to ask for an extension on the grant too, was to 2025, is we didn't know if we'd be able to get the parts, right?
Well, that was one of the, you know, the kind of three major components of this that we're trying to keep prices under control. Well, one of them with the splash pad was whether or not we were gonna get a waiver to be able to use the quoted splash park that we were looking for, but it turned out the DNR was gonna take quite a long time to review and approve using those products.
Okay, so that's what it
like
was.
A piece was from Canada, and so it was not by Americans, so then it was whether that was gonna be able to get approved. Well, since even our last meeting, the response is more or less, well, how much more is it? Oh, it's only 20, 30 grand more to do by American. Well, then just pay the more, you know, more. And it's like, well, that was one of the straws that broke the back on this thing, is each of these major items are coming in 30, 40 over, and once you add them all up, it's just this snowball effect.
So how much over approximately would be that estimate as of today? Or
As things sit currently, if my memory serves me correctly, it would be about 190 over. So that would be like, you think of it as like, take out the grant money, that stuff aside, we had that original budget of 436. Now throw 190 on there. If it were, you know, it's hard when it's a park amenity and you know there are certain residents in the community that want it to go forward. There's also some that don't. But just objectively, that stuff aside, whether this is a park amenity project, a street project, a stormwater project, or something else altogether, if I'm looking at projects that are coming in at or close to 50% over budget, you have to really consider whether or not you need to go forward.
and it's not critical infrastructure in any way, shape, or form. I've been against it since day one. I mean, I'm bummed to hear that it's, it's so over budget that it might not happen, but at the same time, I think it's a blessing in disguise for our residents and their taxpayers.
Yeah, I'll still go back to that, I didn't have a problem with it as it was structured and as it was budgeted, and that you're using park dedication funds that can only be used on park amenities, and we've got a whole pile of money sitting there that's, gonna be nearing $700,000. We gotta spend it on something that's park-related, or we can just let it sit there forever and try to save up for a community center or something like that, but that's, way more expensive, and then I think you're tempting future councils to say, well, let's just take a bond out for the rest of the money that we need, and, so I hate to just let it sit there and become a temptation like that too, you know what I mean? So I just think we're gonna have to spend that money on something, but for the amount of money that we're talking about having to spend, it would take every penny we have, that we know we have right now, or that's gonna be coming in here shortly, to get that 700,000 in park dedication funds. I don't wanna use every penny we have on this one project, so I can't support it anymore, so.
So is there, I have to believe that there's other communities that are, they got the grant money, and I gotta believe they're having the same sort of issue, and they're also going to have to return the money. Have you talked to was that through the DNR? Or who was that grant through? I don't remember. I think it was the DNR, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's the DNR.
Has anybody talked to them to see if they're considering if there's any sort of other options for us?
My experience is that if you're gonna go and give back grant money like that, all they're gonna do is go back to that original pool and say, all right, next on the list,
in line,
are
okay.
you guys interested? Money became available. But I had talked to Stephanie, maybe Jason, maybe she talked to Jason as well. I think it was at North Branch or Pine City, had a similar deal where they started
Pine
out,
City, I think she said.
yeah, they had started out planning on spending, a few $100,000 on a shelter, and next thing you know, it was clear over 2 million, and, you gotta make,
I think that was the same situation for them, as they probably
It's-
started in about the same time as we did on this type of project, and
and
a lot has changed in 3 years, so.
So is there any way that we could somehow adjust what we're doing? Like, still use the money but not do something so big, or is it too late in the work? I would still like to have a bathroom there, because we do use the park a lot, and it's better, but I don't know if we could say, hey, to the DNR, hey, we come into some bad circumstances, can we revise what we did? Is it worth a shot to ask them that? To try and use some of the funding, other than just saying, hey, just give it all back?
No,
Maybe there's a compromise.
primarily, when that original grant was written, it even had extra little elements to make it qualify even better to meet, to be granted the grant. And so that's why it had included a small pollinator garden and some workout stuff and all these specific elements to make it fit the application. And so to try and go back and be like, yeah, we'd actually prefer to just completely change this and go with just the same. That's.
Or is there any tweaks we could maybe do to make it sort of, I don't know, not throw it down the drain because we don't want to throw all the money back, but is there anything we could do that you could see that we might be able to use the state or the DNR money still?
Flat out, no.
Okay.
It would have to be requesting a complete, change to what we proposed, and then whether or not that still met their requirements, and the fact that what we submitted was more or less, just trying to meet their requirements.
Okay.
That the second we pull anything out, it probably won't meet their requirements anymore.
Okay.
But we will have all that park dedication money, that
Right.
if you wanted to build a bathroom, well, we could still use it for that,
yeah, and so we do have some costs that we've already incurred, and I'll go through that, and anything that we can, like we've got electrical that's been run in Bluebird. Okay, that stuff we can still use park dedication funds. We don't have to make Fund 920 eat that. Some of this engineering stuff was from years ago, right? This is the big look back. Some of that's already been expensed through the general fund already to begin with. That's not money we have to worry about again today. But we'll go through that kind of stuff, and yeah, and then it's gonna be back to the drawing board. We've got park dedication fees, where do they wanna go? Maybe it's now just, we want a bathroom. And maybe the bathroom's gonna be bigger, smaller, different, whatever. Maybe it's trails, maybe it's park, playground equipment, maybe,
Yeah, that park tour that we went on, that was mean, there's a lot of things we could do. I don't know if
Yeah.
there's anything that's
Well,
vitally important, but I mean, there's plenty that we could do.
I guess one thing that pops into mind is that apartment building's going right next to Matson Park, and I know that park is busy, and they had ideas about getting, adding some features in there to make it more, friendlier, and then with it being gonna be busier with the apartment there, you could start looking at that park and thinking, and pulling some projects forward.
I agree. I think that park is somewhat underutilized for this location. It's great.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, the playground equipment is kind of not probably up to par for the age group that's over there right now either. And yeah, so I mean, we could make a lot of improvements at our other parks too, besides just
Yeah.
this one, massive project, so.
It is a blessing in disguise. It's just
I
a
think
bummer.
so,
It's just a
yeah.
bummer about the DNR grant. I wish there was something we could do about that. 'Cause
Last week, you didn't want to take, that's the reason you were voting against it.
well, yeah, but that's because I hated the project. I think it was a waste. But at the same time,
So if the council is, it sounds like council will approve the attached resolution, we'll move on from this project. Then my recommendation would be is, next 4 months, 5 months, that's kind of that window to, between council and park board and things to start putting those ideas together so that we can work that into that, that budget cycle, starting in kind of when we start really drafting stuff up in May and June. And then that's kind of, that's the ideal timeline then. Start working through those things, figure out where they fit on that schedule. Should they be in 2025? Should they be in 2035? That's kind of how we should move forward and go about that.
Sounds good to me. And I mean, you could really save it for a community center. I mean, I think that's one of the things that we've talked about that would qualify for park dedication funds, but, how much is it gonna cost
Yeah.
to build something like that? I mean, the odds of a council saving it for that long,
I mean,
probably not gonna happen.
No,
But
no.
no. You
Government,
must be better off helping a YMCA to come in versus building your own. But then you're getting into business and that's like, But if you want a community
And you
center,
don't want to take out, you could take out debt and then service the debt probably with park dedication funds, I suppose, couldn't you?
that's,
No one's ever floated that idea to me. My gut instinct is, let's not do that.
yeah.
Well,
that's
right, I
what
mean,
thinking.
I'm not advocating taking out debt, I'm just
Yeah,
throwing an idea out there. And-
Yeah, nobody's ever asked me that, but I'm
That's 'cause we didn't
rather,
think we
I'm
could
rather
use the
debt
money.
averse. How about that?
Yeah.
we never thought we could use the money, so.
Well, right, yeah, we thought we had to use.
So it's changed a lot.
That's changed a lot on what we couldn't use.
I'm
it for.
happy we asked a lot of questions about that.
But I mean, I guess that would, I could see justifying that then, if you could use it for a community center, why couldn't you use it to service the debt on a community center?
Yeah, I'd have to think about that more,
I
but I
think you
don't
should
have.
stop
I
asking questions.
can't think of it. I can't think of an obvious flaw in that though
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
I'd have to. Yeah.
Trying to get out of debt.
I know, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know.
You
gotta
see
think
how,
about
you
it,
see
though.
how tempting it is for that future council,
Yeah.
it was 5 minutes down the road and here I am.
But I think, where the apartment building is going, I think that is a good area to start looking at in my mind.
So Mike, do you know what we pay every month for portable restroom rental, roughly, total?
It varies during time of the year. Winter's cheaper than the summer.
Just a rough guess.
Rough math. Like per porta potty, like
75 bucks a month usually.
I was gonna say 75 to 90.
Yeah, but how
Yeah,
many do we
may-
have roughly?
In the summer, it gets to be quite a number.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, if you told me it was 20, 22.
Have you
spread
ever
out,
looked
I
at the
mean,
payback schedule on building more permanent structures versus having to pay every month for the leasing?
I haven't spent a ton of time thinking about that, but what I have noticed is that for example, county parks and larger city parks, I've noticed one of two trends. You either have porta potties, just standard. Otherwise, every now and then you'll have one that's got the Taj Mahal restrooms, but most of them go to the simplest.
Vault toilets.
Yep.
Yep.
Basically a hole in the ground.
Yep.
And I always take that as a cue as, one, running utilities to any remote park is really, really difficult and expensive. But two, just the building itself is, then the plumbing, the mechanical work around it it's not cheap.
Yeah, on the
It-
county park board side of things, we are looking into more of that because there is a payback period, but you have to do the more simple vault style toilets, which probably wouldn't be accepted in city limits. It should be interesting to see like how much are we spending on Bluebird Park portable restrooms every year, and then would it be paid off, a simple bathroom be paid off in 20 years? Would it be worth it for us to make that investment versus lining someone else's pockets, type of thing?
Yeah.
So I think it'd be
Yeah,
interesting to see those numbers when we're talking about park dedication funds, if that makes sense. But then again, I don't know.
I'm just laughing because I know whose pockets we're lining.
Oh, yeah, I know, I know, yeah, but you know what I mean, it's,
Yeah, no, I agree with
I don't
you.
mean
Yeah,
any
it-
disrespect,
no,
I
I'm just,
love our company.
I know,
Yeah,
I'm just, yeah, no, I don't, I think that's all stuff that we could definitely consider and take a look at, as we're looking for ways to spend that money that we're gonna have available now for park dedication, so. So do we need a, motion on this resolution to terminate the splash pad and restroom project, so.
I will gladly make that motion to terminate.
All right.
I'll second that.
I have a motion to pass the resolution terminating the splash pad and restroom project from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Holmgren. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to K2, the ordinance to amend Chapter 262, Attachment 1, Water Table, and Attachment 2, Sewer Table.
So this one, somewhat straightforward. I've given you guys fair warning on this one for a while. Maybe it could just be consent, but since it is ordinance amendment, probably ought to be business regardless. Basically, until we get a rate study done, don't know where the rate should be, but we aren't gonna have a rate study done until we get a well study. So we gotta start queuing those things up, figuring out where that, where those future capital needs are gonna lie, and then that'll give us some good ideas on where those rates ought to be. And then it's gonna be, when we get to rates, it's gonna be, do we keep that regular structure we have, where we have three standard tiers? Or like George had brought up previously is, do we need to have a fourth or a fifth tier for people that are gonna irrigate their lawns to the tune of 100,000 gallons a month? But those would be discussions to be had, but for right now, staff is just recommending, let's just re-up the rates that we had for 2023, and we'll address the change in the rates in 2024 once we've got a completed rate study.
So do you suspect next year we'll have all the information we need to actually do updated information on this? Or,
Yeah, I think basically how this will go is if Jason and Bolton can get the well study in the next month or two, that actually times out fairly well for me. I'm going to be exorbitantly busy getting through the audit, but audit is the first full week of March. Shortly after that, I'm kind of done. That would be a good time frame for me to then lead right out of the well study straight into rate study. And hopefully, in that late spring, early summer, we're, halfway through the year roughly, we'd be able to look at that rate study and start thinking about where we want those rates. And then, council can say, we're gonna change rates in July. Your council can say, we're gonna wait and we're gonna do it at New Year. We, kind of do that how you want.
okay.
But we'll try to make sure we've got good, proper information before we make those adjustments.
You haven't happened to see what other cities are doing for their rates, if they've gone up with inflation, or is that?
Well,
Hard to really compare city
Yeah.
to city.
it's
because you're-
really hard.
We're looking at
Infrastructure.
another well and potentially another water tower down the road. And
Yeah, I don't spend
just
much
every
time
city's
looking at other rates.
Okay.
It's sort of I'm gonna look at my data, I'm gonna look at us and make a good decision on that. Because some of the problem you're gonna have is where are we in our useful life on our water plant, for example, right? I get economies of scale as I'm closer to the end of the useful life. Now, that sounds great unless I haven't been saving money for the next one, and so, and you don't necessarily have that level of insight on somebody else's utility.
Sure.
So it gets to be really difficult. Just because they have lower rates, it might be because they're absolutely derelict in their duty to fund their own critical infrastructure. Or it might be that they're just super awesome. So I prefer I keep my blinders on. I'll look at our data. We'll make great choices and understand that everybody would rather have lower utility bills than higher, but we still have critical infrastructure. It has to get paid for either way. So.
Okay.
All right, so do we have a motion to adopt the same water rates as we have now going forward for 2024?
Motion to adopt.
I have a motion from Councilman Heeman. Do I have a second?
I will.
I have a second
Second.
from Councilman Holmgren. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to K3, resolution to consider approving a policy for a mass notification alert system.
Well, Mayor and Council, last fall, City Administrator Wood brought those different vendors on the mass notification. He selected the one vendor, Civic Ready. So Ms. Wood's been working with them, trying to get that up and going. I think she's pretty close to having it being ready to go. So this is just a policy on the city's use of that. The only input I had into it is I wanted to make sure there's a differentiation between this, which is a mass notification system, versus the emergency management notification system through the county, which is Everbridge. So I didn't want to, I mean, think about the confusion. If we tell our residents, well, if you live in the city of Isani, subscribe to this one, but not that one, because we're gonna do our own emergency management notifications on this one. So I just wanted, from the beginning when we talked about it, I talked to Ms. Wood to make sure that there's a defined line between our system and what it's gonna be used for, and then the county system, emergency management, which we have access to. I have access to Everbridge to put out emergency management notifications that are related to the city, right? So it doesn't mean that we don't have that. I just didn't wanna have two platforms, you know, if you live in the city, which one are you subscribing to for emergency management stuff? So emergency management's still gonna go through Everbridge, through the county system. I still have access to push notifications through that system, but on our system, she laid out the examples of what we'd use it for: the road closures, water main breaks, congestion streets, city events, snowplow, emergency declarations, special emergency council meetings, railroad malfunctions. So stuff like that will be put out for the city system. The only caveat I'd like to add to that just is I'd like, when we put out, we have to have people subscribe to it. So we're gonna have to put out some media, Facebook or whatever it is. I wanna make sure that we're putting out both Civic Ready and Everbridge side by side. Everybody knows what they both are, what they both mean. I don't wanna just promote our Everbridge without promoting the emergency management side, if that makes sense. So I just wanna make sure that's clear, that there's two systems, they have their own unique pieces, but they're both for the residents of the city of Isani.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense, and really, I mean, the reason that this was even something that had come up was the water main break that we had last summer, and, just thinking, I mean, we had people waking up to hardly any water pressure, and it was, fortunately, it happened early in the morning when there probably wasn't a whole lot of people ready to use water, but, I think it was on a Sunday too, but yeah, I mean, that was the reason that we wanted to have something like this, was just to be able to get that kind of information out. And I think, we could definitely add some language here, kind of stating that when we promote the Civic Ready system, that we'll also promote Everbridge.
Before this, I had never heard of Everbridge, so it'd be nice if that could be more promoted for sure by the county too, because,
And it should
I mean,
be
I've lived here for
promoted by
31 years and I've never even heard of it.
Everybody, yeah. It should be promoted by the city, by us, City of Isani, as well as the county. So I think this will be the catalyst for at least
Okay.
us to get our residents going on that. That's the problem with the opt-in stuff, is you need to promote it,
Yeah.
But I think this will be our catalyst. We can only, look at our bubble, and this, we probably have slacked, without pushing Everbridge for our residents. Hindsight is probably not a bad option, because now we can promote both of them at the same time.
Sure.
And there won't be as much confusion if you put them both out there at the exact same time. Clear instruction, this one's this, this is this. They're both for you as residents of Isani.
I guess I like that idea. It'll cut down on
And
confusion.
did you want to add, George, you were asking, like, when we were having that discussion earlier about the Emerald Ash Borer, did you want to add, just a public service announcement sort of to this list of
I think
things
we
that we
should.
use it for? Or?
Yes. I
Anything that we
think
think
that's
is
a great idea.
valuable, I think, or city administration even thinks is valuable for residents to know, we shouldn't handcuff ourselves to.
And it's not Hank, if you look at the resolution, it says alerts to opt in
Oh, lot,
include
not
but are not limited to.
Yeah, you're
These are
right,
just
yeah.
examples.
Yeah, you're right.
Just trying to lay it out, ash borer would fall in there, so I mean, nothing's pigeonholing us
Okay.
from putting those out.
Yeah, that's true. It is kind of left vague there, isn't it? So,
And we're gonna still leave it to the, 3-4 people on the resolution to make that choice?
Yeah, it seems.
Okay,
smart.
yeah. You don't want too many people
Yeah,
Right.
having access to it. Don't abuse it.
I think it'll be great.
okay.
I hope we can push it good and keep people informed so they're maybe feeling like we're thinking of them as much as we can and want them to know everything that we know.
I think it's beneficial, and I think what Holmgren said too, I mean, we gotta be very conscious on what we're putting out there. If we're putting out there, you know, come out to whatever special,
Street dances.
whatever, we gotta be very careful with that, right? Because you don't wanna spam something that 10% of the people wanna hear, right? You wanna make sure that if something comes across, people aren't annoyed by it, they might not be interested, but they're not annoyed by it, right? It's still, okay, that's important, but I don't care, versus that's annoying, right? So
Yeah.
we have to be very cautious on us that are putting them out to make sure we limit it to stuff that's not gonna be an annoyance, might not be beneficial to everybody, but at least they understand why it came out.
And I think
Yeah.
you guys can all lean on us too, as council members. We talk to people too, so if, you know, if you guys see anything or hear any complaints about it, we should bring that forward. Then we can sort of adjust as we go.
Yeah, I mean, and the nice thing, I mean, we're only sending them to people that are signing up, so I
That's
mean,
true,
it's not
too.
like, it's just taking everybody in the area and sending them something, so they have to have at least bought into that they wanna know this stuff, so that helps give us a little bit of leeway, but Travis is right, if you use it too much, then you're gonna lose the effectiveness of it, so,
I'll make a motion to approve.
okay. And then we wanna add kind of a line that's saying basically that when we're promoting Civic Ready, that we also promote Everbridge alongside with it,
Yes.
and, okay.
I'll second that motion.
So I have a motion from Councilman Heeman and a second from Councilman Merrill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to the consent agenda, anything that, there's any questions on there?
Can you just give us a little more rundown, Travis, on the L3? Is that a new? I've never heard of that before.
I think that's something that we've had in place for quite a while, and
Yeah, so that's Towards Zero Death, that's old-fashioned words with Safe and Sober Grant. It's targeted, it's NTSB funding that feeds through the state, that comes down to the local entities. So it's us, Bram, Cambridge, and the county. We're just the financial host of it again this year. We have been, last year Cambridge was a host, but prior years to that, we were the host. Prior years to that, Isani was. But it's funded for targeted enforcement for whatever our area has for traffic accidents. So, like, we don't have enhanced funding for speed in our county because on the statistical data, that's not a major contributing factor for fatal accidents over the past year, right? So they go through what's your major contributing factors and then grant funding to enforce those traffic issues, distracted driving, DUI enforcement, and is there two primary ones. There's seatbelt waves in there too, and then sometimes they'll have other things they want us to do too. So it's in addition to, so it's just funding to pay for the hours, which is the overtime rate plus we get the numbers from Mike as far as what the fringe benefit, you know, the workman's comp type stuff, so it compensates 100% for whatever they actually work. And I don't remember I want to say, don't quote me, somewhere around $50,000 between the four agencies is what it equates out for a year, as far as that much extra enforcement work.
for something that you're really gonna do anyway, for the most part. I mean,
We're gonna do it anyway, but it just gives so basically how it works is we already have our patrol guys, let's bring somebody else on in addition to work hours just to focus on DUI enforcement or just to focus on whatever that focus topic is for that time frame. So the state gives out a calendar in certain timeframes, so when
Okay.
we're doing DUI enforcement in the city of Isani, they're doing it all across the state at the same time frame.
Okay, gotcha. So it's not something you're actually gonna do anyway, but at least it's paid for when you do it.
It's an addition to, because then when we actually have somebody doing it, they are doing just that.
Okay. Any other questions on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Councilman Heeman. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll take a second from Councilman Holmgren. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Other communications, any questions on any of those items there? I actually did have a couple on those. So the vehicle that's in the shop, is that, what do we have going on with that? And it's been in there for a while now, hasn't it?
It's waiting on the second engine to come in.
What, the first one they tried didn't work, or what?
Correct. It worked for a week or so.
Yeah. Okay. So that sounds like a nightmare. Yeah.
Never heard of that at Ford. Rough. I was wondering the same thing. It's like, man, that one seems like it every time.
Well, I knew it had some major issues, but I thought, man, that seems like it's been a while now, and,
It came out, we used it for a day, and the actual head was defective on the new engine.
Yeah.
Now they're waiting on a replacement head.
yeah. Well, they'll get it right, I'm sure.
Yep.
And then Jason, the 2024 pavement management project, it said you were gonna bring some info for that tonight, or?
Yeah, that's just got moved to the January 2nd
Okay,
meeting.
all right. That's all I had. Unless you guys have anything else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion to adjourn from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. We are adjourned.
Is that what?